What's up, y'all? Today in our pregame flow, we're starting out with some isolated lumbar flexion and extension. As you can see here, I start in quadruped. Difference is my elbows are down on the ground rather than my hands. And this prevents me from moving my T-spine in the middle of my back. And it allows me to focus on my lumbar curve. As you can see there, here I'm slowly dropping my belly toward the ground. You can see my back enter a nice solid arch. And then on the flip of that, I am pushing my lower back up toward the ceiling and drawing my belly button in toward my spine. And I'm making each rep take about 10 seconds, 5 seconds to reach extension, and then 5 seconds again to reach back into flexion. And this is not only a pelvic control exercise, it's an exercise that allows us to put some movement on the lumbar spine and get those hips from that tight sitting position into a little bit more of an adequate movement pattern that we can work with. It kind of just gets things moving for us. Very, very easy exercise, but a very high yield in terms of what this will do for us. So again, dropping the belly toward the floor very slowly. Check out that arch. And then once again, drawing the belly button in and pushing the lower back up toward the ceiling. And you can see that my T-spine remains in the same position the entire time. Moving into our next part of the flow here, we have our sniper pose, which as you can see, I'm face down, toes pointing at the walls next to me, knees in contact with the ground, and I'm trying to drive my heels into the ground. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take my hands and put them in that push-up position just to the left and right of my rib cage. And from there, I'm gonna push myself up and drive into the frog position. Once again, still trying to keep my heels against the ground. Now, the important part about the sniper pose is I'm actually pushing my wrist bone down into the ground here, and I have my forehead against the ground. And this is providing me with kind of an active stretch for my lats and my mid back. And then I'm gonna go ahead and place my hands in that push-up position once again, drive myself up, keeping my core tight, and then here I start to slowly drive my butt back toward my heels. Sniper and frog are two of my most needed poses, and this is probably one of the most impactful flows for me personally. It's very difficult for me to drive my heels down toward the ground with my toes pointed out to the walls. But in this position here, sniper, I can feel it all the way into my groin, all the way down into my calves, into my feet, and then in my mid back, in my lats when I'm in the sniper pose. Again, here go the hands directly to the sides of my pec muscles or my rib cage, and then I'm gonna drive myself up, keeping that core nice and tight, and slowly sit my hips back towards my heels. As you can see here, when my butt is moving toward my heels, I stop before I feel any kind of pain. This is one of those positions where naturally it will become less restricted the more you do it. However, it is not something that you want to push into a realm where you feel pain, right? So gradually build up some resilience to it, and you will slowly be able to move deeper into the positions. Again, I'm in sniper. I take about 5 to 7 seconds to drive my lats toward the ground and push my heels toward the ground. Do my push-up, once again making sure I keep my core engaged really tight as I drive up off the ground, and then very slowly using my upper body to push me back toward my heels to the best of my ability. And note that control on the way back down to the resounding cue here is control and intention. Now we're gonna do our glute bridge with our heel tap reach and slide. Notice how I'm touching my belly. I'm making sure my lower back is completely flat against the ground by squeezing my core and removing the arch from my lower back. Reaching my hands up toward the ceiling and hitting that glute bridge, I'm feeling myself squeeze my glutes really tight while the front of my hips open up. And then as I set my butt back down, I'm going one vertebrae at a time until I finally bring my knees up toward my chest. I'm gonna go one heel tap and slowly slide that leg out straight and bring it back in, raise that knee up, and then I'm going opposite side heel tap, slide out. Notice how I'm getting a little sticky there on that left side. I'm trying to make sure, bring the heel back in and then both feet planted and glute bridge again. I try to make sure when I do this exercise that I am focusing very heavily on spinal position. I don't want my back arched when I'm doing the glute bridge or when my back is flat on the ground. And as I set myself down, patterning one vertebrae at a time will also help me understand how to keep my low back flat. bringing my knees up. Once again, low back is still flat. During the heel tap, low back is flat, and I only want you to extend out in that slide till you feel your back start to compromise and you feel yourself start to move into that arch position. If you do, stop and bring it back in. Do not allow yourself to have an arched lower back in any of this portion of the flow, right? During the bridge, during the heel taps, during the slide, you should not have an arch in your back at any point in time. Lumbar spine flat against the ground. Once again, one vertebrae at a time, patterning all the way down. I'm gonna bring up right leg, left leg, and now I'm gonna do my tap. Lower back is still flat, core is still very much engaged. Slide out to the best of my ability and slide back in. And then I'm gonna do the opposite side again. And once I bring my left heel back in, I'm gonna go ahead and plant both feet on the ground and do another bridge. I love the bridge portion of this because it helps to activate the glutes, really helps to emphasize tucking the hips in and also opening up the anterior side of the hips, the front of the hips. And that pattern down nice and slow is almost like an educational portion of this flow to where it helps you understand how to move your vertebrae one at a time. Control is mobility, and I don't think that that's touched on quite enough. Lack of mobility and lack of control are essentially synonymous terms. So when you're doing this flow, portion of the flow, just remember you always want to have as much control as possible. Once again, tightening the core there. You can see as I'm doing this flow, you can actually watch me shake. It's a very difficult flow for me as I do have an anterior pelvic tilt, and it's very lucrative. So thank you guys again for today. See you soon.